Let's make a Coca-Cola cake. Hello everyone, it's Becky from Keats Kitchen, and today I'm going to make a Coca-Cola cake. I have never made this before, but I saw it the other morning on Good Things Utah, and it looked so good, and I don't think my grandma ever made a Coca-Cola cake. If she did, I didn't know about it, but this is a first for me. So follow along. I'm gonna go around and tell you all the ingredients, and I'm excited to do this. It sounds like it's really, really good. So for starters, the recipe calls for 2 cups of sugar, 2 cups of flour, 12 ounces of Coca-Cola, and the lady on TV made it clear that it's not the same if you use Diet Coke or like a Shasta Cola. She said for the best results, Coca-Cola, regular Coke. I mean, I guess you can do what you want to, but that's what she suggests. Okay, and then 1 cup of salted butter, softened, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, and some baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 cup of buttermilk. I've got it in here. 2 eggs, and it calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla, but I'm going to add some of my vanilla paste that I made a while back, and I'm going to put in 2 teaspoons because the more vanilla, the better. And then 1 cup of mini marshmallows. There's a frosting that goes on this cake too, but we'll do that here a little bit later. So anyway, I'll be back and I will put all the ingredients together for this Coca-Cola cake. Okay, so to get going here, I took my 2 cups of sugar and I added it to the 2 cups of flour, and I have whisked it together. And then it says to just set it aside after it's all blended. And I put my cup of softened butter in a saucepan. So it's gonna be a little more awkward today because I've never made this. Okay. In a medium saucepan, add butter, cocoa powder, and Coca-Cola. So we're gonna do 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. And 12 ounces of Coca-Cola. That's fizzing. Okay, and turn on the stove. This is different, but I like it. So we're gonna let this come to a boil, and I'm gonna rinse off my whisk real quick so I can use it in this saucepan. Make sure you can see this. I forget that I need to show you guys. So there's 1 cup of butter, 1/4 cup of cocoa, and 12 ounces of Coca-Cola in the saucepan here. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn this a little bit, because what I'm gonna do is add all the dry ingredients to my mixer, to my KitchenAid. This method is different than what I'm used to. I'm used to creaming everything together in the beginning and then slowly adding the dry ingredients, but this recipe, you add the wet to the dry. So very interesting. There we go. I just thought it'd be fun for us to all learn together with this Coca-Cola cake. Okay, coming back to my Coca-Cola mixture. This needs to come to a boil. And once it boils and is heated, then I'm going to pour it into the flour and sugar mixture. And here's another interesting thing. It says to add the baking soda to the buttermilk. I guess it does some type of reaction where it foams. I saw this on TV. And so I'm going to grab my measuring spoons, and while this is cooking, I'm going to add the baking soda to the buttermilk. Oh, and I did not do this. There's a ½ teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to just add this to my dry mixture and give that a good whisk. Okay, coming along. So then for the baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and that's going to go in the buttermilk. Isn't that interesting? So this recipe, it's kind of almost like a science project. But it's cool. It's different than what I'm used to. So, okay, and then I'm gonna stir that up. I feel I'm not as prepared today, but it's kind of fun winging it, doing something new. I think my grandma would approve of this Coca-Cola cake. Ooh, it's kind of getting foamy in there. There's a little reaction going on. I don't know if you can see it, but ooh, it's puffing up. So I'm just going to set this aside. And I'm going to let this boil. And when it's come to a boil, I'm going to pour it in my flour mixture. While we're waiting for it to boil, I'm going to go ahead and spray a 9x13 pan with my Magic Baker's Joy. If you haven't got any of this yet, you need to go get it. I just love it. It's a spray with flour in it. So, you know, remember in the old days, we'd grease the pan with Crisco or butter, and then we put a little flour in and tap it around. But you know, my grandma, she would have loved this. So anyway, spray your pan pretty generously. And I'm going to just set this aside. Yeah, Grandma would have loved that. She always appreciated anything to make her cooking a little bit easier. So anyway, we're still waiting on this to come to a boil. Okay, it's boiling. You see that? It's ready. And turn off the stove. And this is ready to put into the flour mixture. So it's hot. That's a little bit intimidating for me, but I think I can do it. Or I know I can do it. Just have to go a little bit slower. So says to pour the liquid into the flour and sugar and salt mixture. Ooh. Wow. Totally different than what I'm used to, but I like it. I almost put the butter inside the mixing bowl because that's the first thing that I do generally, but yep, this is different. Mix that up real good. I'm gonna let that mix for just a minute. So this is actually pretty hot right now. I'm a little reluctant to add the rest of my ingredients until it's cooled a little bit. I don't want to add the eggs and then have the eggs scrambled, cook in there. But I want to show you real quick. Look at this buttermilk and baking soda. That it was to there, the buttermilk, and now it's almost to the top. Had a little reaction here. It's kind of cool. So I'm gonna stir it, let it cool a little bit. And when I feel like it's ready, I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients. I think it's probably safe to add some vanilla paste to this. I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons, maybe even just a little bit more. There's Gilligan. He's being very vocal. Vanilla makes it good. More vanilla, more vanilla. Okay, so I'm gonna do about 2.5 teaspoons of vanilla paste. I'm using the paste just because it's a little bit stronger. And where it's chocolate, you won't be able, it's very dark. So if I was making a white cake or something like that, I wouldn't add the dark vanilla paste. And I do have white vanilla too that I use for recipes that like angel food cake and things like that. So anyway, I think I'm good to add the vanilla. Hopefully that'll cool it down just a little bit. But I'm gonna wait before I add my eggs. While this is cooling down, I'm going to do a little multitasking here. I'm going to go ahead and make the frosting for the cake because you have to take 12 ounces of Coke, another 12 ounces, pour it in a saucepan, and then you're supposed to cook it, boil it down until it comes out to a half a cup, or it says to cook it for 12 to 15 minutes after it's come to a boil. It needs to evaporate and cook down. I think it makes it more like a syrup. That's what it sounds like it's doing. So I figured I could multitask a little and start making the frosting. So for now, I'm just going to cook this Coca-Cola down for about 15 minutes after it comes to a boil. And then to that, let's see. And then I'll add the butter and the cocoa and stir constantly until the butter has melted. And then add powdered sugar, 4 cups of powdered sugar. So I'm gonna cook this down and I'll be back. The Coca-Cola is boiling, so I'm gonna go about 15 minutes and let that cook down just a bit to where it's about a half a cup of Coca-Cola. My mixture here is cooling down quite a bit. And it's at like 106. I'd like for it to be in the 90s before I add anything else. So just gonna watch this cook down, and when I feel like this is cool enough, we'll move on with the rest of the cake, and I'll be working on the frosting. Okay, my Coca-Cola is still boiling. My batter here though is cooled down a bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and add my buttermilk / baking soda mixture. And interesting recipe, but I have to say I like it. And it's different. It's fun to go out of the box a bit. Check the temperature here. Made it cool down quite a bit. Okay, I added my buttermilk and soda mixture, and I realized I didn't have my camera over there, so I hope you got that. So I had my half a cup of buttermilk and a teaspoon of baking soda, and it was sitting for a while, and it had a chemical reaction and foamed up. So I added that to the batter. So I think I'm safe to add my eggs. I'll do one at a time. Second egg. Fun. And my Coca-Cola is still cooking down. It has about another 8 minutes to go. And for the last step for the cake batter, I'm going to add 2 cups of miniature marshmallows. And let that mix for just a minute. So I have my cake batter all done. Everything's in there, it should be. And I'm gonna go ahead and pour this in my prepared pan. Now this is so interesting to me, but it's so fun to try something new. And I've heard that these Coca-Cola cakes are absolutely delicious. And I'm excited to try it. It's my little neighbor's, well, it was her birthday yesterday, and I was going to take a piece of cake over to her tonight and say happy birthday. I like to remember all my neighbors' birthdays around here in the neighborhood that are so kind to me. So, okay, I'm going to put this in the oven. My oven is preheated to 350. And it says to bake it for about 35 to 40 minutes. So I'm going to pop it in the oven. Okay, I think this is cooked down enough. I measured it a minute ago and it was a little more than half a cup, but not much. So I'm going to let the butter melt down. And then it says to add 1/4 of a cup of cocoa powder. Add that. So it says, turn my, okay, so I'm going to turn the heat down on this and whisk until smooth. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off, and then I'm going to put, well, I'm not going to use a plastic bowl. Let me get a glass bowl. I'll be back. Okay, I have been cooking this mixture with the Coca-Cola and a 1/2 stick of butter and 1/4 cup of cocoa. Right now I have 3 cups of powdered sugar in this bowl. It asked for 4, but I'm going to start with just 3. And it says here to pour this mixture over the powdered sugar. Well, this definitely has kept me on my toes. It's something different, but it's fun. So I'm going to ever so gingerly stir this up. And once it is mixed up really well, I'm going to add that last cup of powdered sugar. So anyway, I'm going to work on this and come back. All right, so I did not add that extra cup of powdered sugar. I just left it the way it is because actually this frosting, it's supposed to be more like a glaze. So when it goes over the hot cake, it settles and it's a very thin layers. So, I mean, if it doesn't work out, then next time I make it, I can add that extra cup of powdered sugar. But this seems like the consistency that it should be. Not doubting the creator. It's just that sometimes things work out different. Maybe I cooked down my Coca-Cola a little too much. So I'm just going by instinct here, and my gut told me to stop at 3 cups of powdered sugar, but in the recipe it calls for 4. So I say just do what you want. I stuck with 3 because I feel like this will work for me, and I will be sure to list the recipe in the comments, and I do have to go back and edit and put the cooking gloves in my recipe from the meatloaf. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make promises and then forget, but I do forget. So anyway, my frosting or / glaze is done, and my cake has about another 22 minutes in the oven. So anyway, when the cake is done, I'll be back and pour the frosting over the cake. I gotta go see what's bugging Mr. Gilligan. Oh my, look at this cake. This looks amazing. That white stuff is the marshmallows. Doesn't that look good? So it says to pour the frosting over the cake after you take it out of the oven. It's kind of domed, so I think what I'm going to do is just put a little on for now and let it kind of melt over to give it a first coating, because it is really hot. Just kind of give it that first coat with the glaze. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. I took a taste of the batter and a taste of the frosting, and it's good. So anyway, I'm just gonna put 1 thin coat over the hot cake, and then I'm gonna come back when it's cooled down just a tad and do the rest. But this looks phenomenal. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to share it. And I hope you all make this too. A lot of you probably have made a Coca-Cola cake. I think it's a Utah thing, or no, I take that back. It's a Southern thing. I read online that it was originated in the 50s, and it was a big dessert at Cracker Barrel in the South. But I've seen a lot of women here in Utah make this. So anyway, just putting the first layer on here, and then just to let it set up nice, and then I'll be back with the rest of it. Okay folks, there you have it, a Coca-Cola cake. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. I went ahead and just frosted the whole thing once it cooled down enough, so I didn't want to waste any video time just frosting it and trying to get it perfect. So I went ahead and did it. It looks delicious, and here in a bit I will cut a piece and let you see what it looks like, and I'll do a taste test on camera too. So Coca-Cola cake. Okay folks, moment of truth. It smells wonderful. Coca-Cola cake. Try this. Oh my gosh. My mouth is singing. That is so good. Oh, it reminds me of a Texas cake, but I like this better. You gotta make your Coca-Cola cake. I'm telling you, it is so good. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for stopping by and watching my tutorial today. And I hope you have a great evening. I love you all. Mwah. I will see you again soon. Have a good night.